something kind of fun today. First thing you have to do is you have to go on a scavenger hunt around your house for different things that you can trace for shapes. So I found this little jar that I'll use for a circle. I found this whiteout, which is kind of like a funky cool shape. I found this coaster. I found this kind of long rectangle shape. I found Starbucks card for a shorter rectangle shape. I found a square business card. I found this cool plastic shape. I thought the bottom of a glue bottle would be a nice cool shape. And I found a red Solo cup for another big shape. So these are going to be my shapes. You, of course, will probably have different shapes because you're going to go on a scavenger hunt around your house so you can find other fun shapes. So what you're going to do is I'm going to push all these off to the side and you're going to start tracing them. And I'm going to do each one once and then see how full my paper is, and then I might do some of them a couple times. So to trace, use a pencil. And you make sure your pencil is always straight up and down, because if your pencil is sideways or at an angle, it kind of messes up your shape and makes it look a little bit wonky. So make sure your shape is straight up and down. See, I think your pencil is straight up and down. I think my pencil wasn't straight up and down right there, so that's why my circle was a little bit wonky. I'm gonna trace, I'm gonna kind of have this one go off the paper a little bit. Now I always trace things really, really lightly in case I need to erase. So you might have a hard time seeing it. I'll try to trace a little bit, not quite as light so you guys can see it a little bit better, but I would suggest you trace your shapes lightly. That's a cool shape. Let's do. And the trick to this is to start having your shapes overlap. Okay, so I've used all my shapes once, so I'm gonna go back and start filling up empty spaces. And you can see just by having your shape go off the edge, you can kind of make it into different shapes. So that was a square, and now it just kind of looks like a triangle in this corner. I think I've pretty well filled up my space. So now I'm going to set all my shapes aside. Now every time I use a Sharpie, I always put a piece of paper underneath to make sure that my Sharpie doesn't bleed through to my table underneath. If you do not have a Sharpie, you are welcome to use anything you have. You can use a black marker for this, you can use a colored pencil, you can use a crayon, anything that you have will work. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start going over all of those lines. Trying to keep my lines as neat as I can. Okay, so there are my shapes all traced out, but you know me, I always like to erase any pencil lines that I can still see. All right, so now I've erased all my pencil lines. Now I'm going to use markers. You can use colored pencils, crayons, watercolors, anything you have totally works for this. So I'm going to use markers. And what you're going to do is pick a shape. So I'm going to start with this little circle in the corner. And I always like my trick for making coloring look really nice, especially with markers, is to outline the shape first really neatly and carefully. And then I just fill it in with lines. Now this makes my markers last longer because I'm not using as much ink, and it makes my coloring look a little bit neater. Now you notice that I went to color in this circle, but even though the circle goes all the way over here, I didn't color in this little space because it's overlapping with another shape. So anytime one of your shapes overlaps with another shape, you have to color it a different color. So I'm gonna make this little shape a different color. And I'm just gonna work my way around. This shape has several shapes overlapping it. It's got the circle here, the square here, and then this funky shape here. So I need to make sure I'm not coloring in anywhere where another shape is overlapping. Now I'm just using kind of all of my colors. You, of course, if you want to kind of stick to only warm colors or only cool colors or only your few favorite colors, that's fine too. I'm just using them all just to kind of make it super colorful, but you, of course, can do it however you would like. So let's talk about this super long shape right here. So it has this circle overlapping it here, this big circle overlapping it here, and this square overlapping it here. But what I have to try to do to start is find where is the shape by itself with nothing overlapping it. So there's this little space right here on the end. But then I want to use this same color anywhere else on this shape where no other shapes are overlapping. So this skinny little piece that goes through the middle should also be the same color because that's another space on that same shape where there's nothing overlapping. So kind of same with this square. It's cut in half by this long piece right here. So I'm going to color this little edge where nothing's overlapping it, and this little space that has nothing overlapping it right here in the center. See that? Because this should be the same color, right? So I'm going to keep going. Okay, so now all of my shapes are colored in. I need to pick one color that I didn't use. So I set aside this purple at the beginning as would be the one color I didn't use to fill in my shapes, and that's going to be the one color I use to color in all my empty spaces in my background. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want it to be the same color as a shape that's already happening in your drawing. So now I'm just again going to be really careful, kind of outline my spaces as best as I can. And fill in all of that white background space. All right, guys, so there is my finished drawing. I have all of my funky, cool found shapes that I found somewhere in my house, and I overlapped them to make these different colors and fun design. I hope that you have fun doing this like I did, and I can't wait to see what you're making. Have fun, guys.